Is a position change coming for LSU defensive back Major Burns? We're talking about it. It's Locked on LSU. Let's go.
You are Locked on LSU, your daily podcast on the LSU Tigers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Okay, let's get it. It is Locked on LSU, your team every day. I'm your host, Matt Moscona. Thanks for making us your first listen every day. We're free, available wherever you get podcasts, so please subscribe. Also on YouTube. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Place your first $5 bet, and you'll get started with $200 in bonus bets guaranteed. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. Former LSU safety Brandon Taylor joins us on the show today. And if you're not familiar, love Brandon Taylor's perspective. He wore the number 18 jersey. He was a 3-year starter at strong safety on some great LSU defenses, including that record-setting 2011 defense. Now does great work on the LSU Sports Radio Network. And because Brian Kelly has had so much to say about the secondary and the safety position in particular, I wanted to get BT's reaction and his thoughts on this team. Remember, Brandon Taylor does pregame and postgame on the LSU Sports Radio Network. So not only did he play at LSU, he was very, very plugged in with this team and knows that position especially well. So we're going to get to that. And this is kind of an episode, admittedly, y'all, where we're kind of focusing the entire episode on that one position. Because let's be very honest, okay? It's the weakest link on this team. We know that the offense is strong across the board. The interior of the defensive line has outperformed every expectation, even with young guys like Ahmad Bro. We've talked about saying they're great. They've outperformed expectation. Your defensive ends have been outstanding this year. Linebacker Whit Weeks is all over the field. You're going to get West Weeks back off of injury against Ole Miss. Greg Penn's wearing the 18 jersey, even with the loss of Harold Perkins. And your cornerbacks are not elite, but you've got young guys who are coming along. And when Zy Alexander's healthy and Ashton Stamps is playing better and PJ Woodland's out there, you're okay. You're serviceable at corner. The weakest position on your team is safety. And Brian Kelly has all but said it. So I want to remind you, because Brian Kelly said, I'm going to get to this here in just a quick second. Brian Kelly effectively said they're considering a position change for Major Burns. But I want to, before I get to him saying that on Wednesday on the SC Coaches Teleconference, I want to remind you what Brian Kelly said immediately after the game against South Alabama on Saturday. He was asked specifically about the safeties. So this answer you're going to hear is him talking about the caliber they have at safety, but then how quickly they need to start making real decisions.
Look, it's not like we're pressing them and putting them down on the line of scrimmage. I mean, I think we just have to be technically better, not necessarily ask somebody to do something that they can't do. We were 12 yards deep, and we were late getting out of our pedal. So the guys can play the position. They just have to be technically better. And then we're going to, Tuesday we're going to put the guys on the field that we think can win SEC games for us. So what's that rotation look like? As we've said, and we've talked about this, we've rolled a lot of guys in there. We get to, 2 weeks from today, there's not going to be a lot of rolling. There's going to be guys that are going to be playing. So this has kind of been to try to get it on film and say, these are the guys that should be starting.
So the rotation they've had here in September has been just to get everything on film to say, all right, who are going to be the guys we roll with when you start playing 7 consecutive SEC games. And his point about 2 weeks from today was when LSU plays Ole Miss. That was from Saturday's postgame. So Major Burns is one of those guys we've kept certainly an eye on because he was LSU's leading tackler a year ago, playing the strong safety position. And Major Burns has started coming into this year, started 23 games. So he was a very experienced strong safety, your most experienced defensive back. And then in this defense, they moved him to the star position. And the general feeling about Major Burns is that he's better in that star position because he's a better tackler, physical player than he is in coverage. We've shared this with you. Major Burns, by Pro Football Focus, if you actually dig into that, his highest grade from Pro Football Focus is his tackling grade. His lowest grade from Pro Football Focus is his coverage grade. So it makes a lot of sense. The star position is made for Major Burns. Get him near the line of scrimmage. But Brian Kelly on the SEC coaches teleconference on Wednesday said Major Burns could be moving positions.
We can move Major Burns back to safety if we need some help back at the safety position, because we really believe he's really good, Toviano, closer to the ball in the line of scrimmage because he's such a short tackler and he's assignment correct.
Should have set that up better. The question was about Javen Toviano, who Brian Kelly said is moving to the star position. So Javen Toviano is moving to the star position. We've seen Toviano play boundary corner, nickel, some safety as well, but he's moving to star. And the reason they're moving him to star, as you heard Brian Kelly say, is it gives them the possibility of moving Major Burns back to safety if they need help there. Now, I want to be clear. Brian Kelly did not definitively say they are moving Major Burns to safety. What he said there, what you heard, was it gives us flexibility. Having Toviano at star gives us flexibility if we have to move Major Burns back to safety, which tells you it's something they are at least considering. I want to point this out to you. When you look at Major Burns and his snaps by position this year, I don't want you to get too confused with the numbers, but I'm going to illustrate something. Through 5 games, Major Burns has played 115 snaps at slot corner. That's the star position. It's just how they have it listed at Pro Football Focus as slot corner. But in the slot, right there in the star, 115 snaps. 88 snaps in the box. 18 at defensive line, where he was basically as an edge rusher attached. So you're talking about over 200 snaps for Major Burns in the box, at the star position, in the box, as an extra linebacker on the defensive line. Over 200 snaps. He has 31 at free safety. We know Major Burns has played free safety. We know he knows the assignments. We know he knows what to do. He started 23 games the last few years at free safety for free safety for LSU. We know he knows that position. He could play free safety. But it's not his best spot. And it makes me wonder if Brian Kelly is considering moving Major Burns out of the star role, where he is very good, back to safety. That's an even greater indictment on the safety position and the uncertainty they have there, because you're willing to weaken not 1 but 2 spots on the field. Or if you feel like Major Burns makes you better at safety, that is an indictment on the guys you have back there right now. It's a real problem, especially with Ole Miss coming in a week from Saturday. By the way, I had a chance to talk to Brandon Taylor specifically about Major Burns and what he thinks he fits best. You'll hear that. Stay with us. It's Locked on LSU, your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Y'all, NFL fans, you can start the season with a big return on FanDuel. By the way, NFL Week 5 gets kicked off on this Thursday, an NFC South clash with the Bucs and the Falcons. FanDuel is America's #1 sportsbook, so when you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats, you can view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. You'll get started with $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place your first $5 bet. That's at FanDuel.com. So it's any bet. You want to bet on the Tigers, the Saints, whomever it may be, make sure you get to FanDuel. And $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place your first $5 bet. It's only one place, FanDuel. Okay, so Brian Kelly moving Javen Toviano to the star. And one more thing about Toviano at the star. I should have mentioned this a bit ago, and I apologize. I went back and checked my notes. And if you've been here with the show since fall camp, first of all, thank you. And thank you for all of you who are everydayers. But late in fall camp, LSU was running an 11-on-11 period, and I charted everything in fall camp. And I went back and looked at my notebook because I thought I remembered this. And there was a play when LSU was running an 11-on-11, and Garrett Nussmeier was pressured, backpedaled, rolled to his right, and heaved the ball toward the right sideline. He was trying to throw it away, but he didn't get it all the way out of bounds. And P.J. Woodland ranged over and made a beautiful toe tap interception on the sideline. Well, the player that brought the pressure was Javen Toviano from the star position. So that is a spot where he did rep in fall camp. And you heard Brian Kelly say it. They think he's a sure tackle. They like him near the line of scrimmage. So something worth watching there. The star position isn't completely foreign to Javen Toviano. Now, I mentioned Brandon Taylor, 3-year starter at strong safety for LSU, a great player, was the communicator, the leader, the ward number 18 in that secondary on that 2011 team, the team that had Tyrann Mathieu and Morris Claiborne, Eric Reed, all those great players. He was the number 18. He was the leader, the captain of that defense. And I asked Brandon Taylor specifically about where he thinks Major Burns fits best in this defense.
Major Burns need to be as close to the line of scrimmage as possible. Major Burns has all the measurements that I wish I had. He's tall. I wasn't tall. He's long. Like he can run. He can fly. He can fly. He can run. He can outrun just about everybody on the defense. But it's almost like he's kind of played like whenever there's a bad play happening, he's around. And you got to, as a safety, you kind of want to get out of that trend. So in order for him to get out of that trend, he needs to be as close to the line as possible, because in space, he's kind of lacking in playing in space as far as tackling in space, fitting gaps in space, and in coverage, he's been lacking a little bit. So I would try to keep him as close to the line as possible, and that's where he thrives at.
Yeah, look, I mean, he's one of the. He's I think third leading tackler on the team, and Pro Football Focus grades him out. His highest grade is his tackling grade. His lowest is his coverage grade. So that's sort of.
And that's and you play to his strengths. Don't try and make him something that he's not. He's not a cover safety.
So then
I was a cover safety because I moved from corner to safety, and it just felt natural to me. He's not a cover safety, so don't try to make him that. He can run. Put him close to the line of scrimmage and let him run sideline to sideline.
So why?
Put it like this: him and Weeks running sideline to sideline is scary.
I don't hate that idea. Two athletic guys like Whit Weeks and Major Burns running sideline to sideline against teams that are going to try to stretch you out. That makes a lot of sense. Now, Brian Kelly has also said they have their Buffalo package when they go 4-3, when they're big on the inside, when you're facing teams that are going to run downhill. And maybe that isn't the best game for Major Burns to be in there. That isn't where you want the star. But it is going to be fascinating to see what they elect to do in that secondary against Ole Miss, because Ole Miss is a team that's going to spread you out to run it. As much as we have the perception of Lane Kiffin as a guy that's going to sling it all around the yard, Ole Miss will run. Lane Kiffin will spread you out to run and looks for balance. Now, it's way easier to do when you had Quinshon Judkins, and they don't have that guy anymore, but they do have good receivers and a really talented quarterback. So we'll wait and see how that all goes. Now, I did ask, again, back to what Brian Kelly said post-game, is we're not going to be doing a lot of rolling anymore. We're going to define who the guys are going to play because you're going to roll with them against Ole Miss. Well, I asked Brandon Taylor that question as well, of if he could name LSU's starting secondary, the corner spots and the safety spots, who would he have back there? Here's what Brandon Taylor said.
I would start Jordan Gilbert. I would start Jordan Allen and Stamps and P.J. Woodland. And I would rotate Major Burns and Sage Ryan as a star. Major Burns for run purposes and Sage Ryan for passing purposes.
Okay. You left out Zy Alexander at corner, who's kind of, I thought, has kind of been LSU's best guy. Why would you go Stamps Woodland without Zy if he's healthy?
You rotate them three at the corner position.
Okay.
But those are the only people I would have playing corner, truth be told.
Okay.
Sage Ryan, they tried it. He's not that. Like, at some point as a coach, you got to understand when you're kind of forcing it.
It's interesting. So he's not wrong, by the way. And I've shared this number with you, but Sage Ryan played 51 snaps at wide corner against Southern Cal. They put him out there wide in the season opener. Since then, Sage Ryan has played one snap at boundary corner. So he's not that. It was interesting, though, that when Brandon was running through his starters there, he mentioned Jordan Gilbert and Jordan Allen. Now, Gilbert is the Texas A&M transfer with a ton of experience in SEC play. I am perfectly fine with that. Jordan Allen is a really athletic young guy, but he has struggled at times this season. So that's one that is a little bit more perplexing. And quite honestly, one of the things we talked about a lot in fall camp when Jordan Allen was taking reps with the ones was, because Sage Ryan was running a corner, is when Zy Alexander came back, then Sage Ryan could kick back to safety and Jordan Allen would come off the field. What's happened here also is that Jordan Allen is that Deshaun Spears, the freshman, has taken a lot of those spots. Now, Jordan Allen, his snaps by position, he's taken the majority of his snaps at free safety. So 54 of his 133 snaps have come at free safety. He's played in the box 27 snaps. He's played in the slot 28 snaps. So Brian Kelly said it, man. They're rolling a lot of guys around and trying to roll guys in and out, see who fits where. But I want to get back to the point. Gilbert and Allen at safety, Stamps Woodland at corner, and then you'd rotate Burns and Sage Ryan at star. So I'm going to flatly disagree with Brandon Taylor. I know he played, he's better and knows more than I ever will, but Zy Alexander has been your best corner when he's healthy. I got to have him on the field. And if it's Zy and Stamps, I think that's your best bet with Woodland rotating in. Gilbert and Allen are interesting because I would probably have Sage Ryan. Brandon Taylor said it as well. You want guys at strong safety that have cover skills. That's not Major Burns. Well, Sage Ryan, while he's not a natural cover corner on the boundary, he's athletic enough to cover. Maybe they think Jordan Allen can be better there. The guy he omitted, though, is the other freshman defensive back, not P.J. Woodland, but Deshaun Spears. I want you to hear what Brandon Taylor had to say about Deshaun Spears here in just a second as we wrap up Locked on LSU, your team every day. So Deshaun Spears has had a really fast start to his career. And I don't know that any of you have really the time tolerance or interest in going back and looking up all my fall camp practice reports. But we talked a lot about Deshaun Spears. And one of the points that I made and made often about Spears was that, I felt he reminded me a lot of Eric Reed as a freshman. I'm not saying he's going to be an All-American. I'm not saying that he's going to be a first-round draft pick or any of those things. I'm just saying physically, he reminded me a lot of Eric Reed. They have very similar build as a freshman. And if you remember, Reed, by November of 2010, his freshman season, became a starter. Started those last 3-4 games of the season and never relinquished the spot. He became, of course, an All-American and was a first-round draft pick. Again, I'm not trying to put that expectation on Deshaun Spears, but he has played a lot, and he started the last 3 games as well. And notice that whenever Brandon Taylor, when I asked him about who he would have starting, even though Spears has started the last 3 games, I asked him, about he mentioned Gilbert and Allen at safety, Stamps and Woodland at corner, Burns and Sage Ryan rotating at star. He did mention Deshaun Spears, so I asked him about the freshman.
He's been holding his own. It's hard. I'm telling you, it's hard to come in as a freshman and to contribute in LSU. I don't care how many stars you got, what you came in with. It's a hard thing to do. But when you playing for a coach like Corey Raymond, you come to LSU to play. You don't come to ride the bench. You don't do nothing. Raymond is known for putting freshmen on the field and throwing them to the wolves. That's the only way. That's in his coaching style. That's the only way you can learn is by getting that experience on the field and learning from your mistakes. I want you to make mistakes as a young player because if you don't, you will never be known how to come out of that adversity when you put in that situation again. So I think he's going to hold his own, and I think that the ceiling is the future for that man.
Deshaun Spears has had a good start to his freshman season. When you look at overall defensive grades for LSU players in PFF, there are 37 players that have taken defensive snaps for LSU, and Deshaun Spears is ranked 19th. Smack dab in the middle. And actually, he's one spot ahead of Jordan Gilbert. He's 2 spots ahead of Harold Perkins. So he has played respectably when he's been out on the field in his freshman season, which is a very, very tall ask. His highest grade is in run defense. His lowest grade is in tackling. And that might be, when you listen to what Brian Kelly said about having Javen Toviano play there, moving Major Burns back to safety, what do you say? Sure tackling. And that might be the thing, if there is something that keeps the freshman Deshaun Spears off the field here moving forward, that might be it. But they've invested a lot in having him start the last 3 games and giving him a lot of reps. And it's hard for me to imagine that he won't continue to play and play a big role for this LSU defense. When I look at his snap counts, he played 2 snaps defensively against USC, 28 against Nichols, 44 against South Carolina, and then 37 each of the last 2 weeks against UCLA and South Alabama. I don't know that they're going to roll guys in like Brian Kelly said, but something else he said earlier in the year was that they didn't have guys that were capable of getting out there and giving you 60 snaps in a game. They're going to have to platoon guys in that secondary. And I think that's something that you're going to continue to see as they move forward. It may not be 6 guys rotating freely, but all the guys we just mentioned are guys that have to be able to contribute to this team moving forward. We're going to talk plenty about it, but the point remains. Not only the secondary, but the safety position in particular is LSU's weak link. And it's an unenviable task that Jake Olson, the safeties coach, has got to figure out who to play and how to maximize them in this defense, because it's not going to get any easier. The challenges. Where you can play Ole Miss, then you're going to go to Arkansas with Taylon Green, who can be dynamic. Then you're going to go to Texas A&M, where Marcel Reed can be dynamic. You're going to get your open date. Then you have to play Bama, and we know what Jalen Milroe can be as a runner and as a thrower. Then you go to Gainesville. Are you going to see DJ Lagway by that point? Vanderbilt. How about Diego Pavia comes into Baton Rouge? And then one of the 2 really dynamic freshman quarterbacks from Oklahoma comes out. There is no more breather where it's a see ball, hit ball, downhill type offense. Everything with all these quarterbacks is spread you out, run tempo, run out of spread sets, and you have to be sure tacklers at the line of scrimmage and in the secondary. So how they start to line it up, it's going to be fascinating when LSU runs out there for the first defensive snap against Ole Miss a week from Saturday. Hey, thanks so much for being here with us. We appreciate you for making us your first listen every single day. Now, for your second listen, you can go check out Locked On SEC. My guy, Chris Gordy, LSU alum, by the way. He holds no punches, covering the best conference in college football. So find Locked On SEC on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts. Hey, please subscribe on your favorite podcast app. Rate us, leave a review. If you are on YouTube, smash that like button, subscribe to the channel. Hit the bell so you're notified whenever we post a video, and let a friend know that if they love the Tigers, we got you here every single day for Locked On LSU, your team every day.